Welcome back to the show, Mr. Chapman.
Well, here I am.
And great. And we've got a question for you from Betty, but we've got to find it. We got hit with so many questions. I had a number of people that wanted to come in and ask questions. Ask Bob what he thinks of the John William of Shadowstats.com moving up his prediction of an economic collapse to 6 to 12 months from today.
I think I know John professionally, and I've watched his work, and he's a brilliant economist, especially when it comes to statistics, and that's what Shadow Stats is all about. And he tells you what the government isn't telling you and what they're lying about. It's just a brilliant piece of work. Anyway, John is probably right. It could take a year longer, but we're going to have hyperinflation if they do what I think they're going to do. And unfortunately, I'm usually right, like 98% of the time. So it's a fairly good bet that we're going to have what John's talking about. And John has been trained in the economic science, and he's not afraid to speak out. One of the problems that economists and analysts have is they work for large corporations. And if they say what they think, they lose their job. Just like, if you belong to a police department and you want to federalize your department and say, no, I'm not going to do that, they'll fire you. Or, if you in the military and you say, no, I don't want to do that, well, they court-martial you. Well, in business, it's a little bit more subtle. They just say, Mr. Jones, you're not going to write about that stuff anymore. And if you do, you're long gone. And so that's why John's work is so important. And he's right. I can't put a time frame on it because I have to see how it develops. And I've given you an overview for the next 2 years if they do what I think they're going to do. And that's going to change as we go along. I mean, nothing is made in concrete. Everything is made upon sand. And the Fed and the government and the powers behind government are changing their mind all the time. And so it will change. But that is where we are headed. I think the big question is, when that 6 months to a year or maybe even 2 years is up, will the Fed be able to reliquefy again? Maybe, maybe not. And will we have a multiple war going on? Probably. Because historically, what politicians and powers behind government have done, as I explained earlier with the First World War, is that they have wars in order to distract people from the real events within their country, and that they are economic and financial events. And so in so doing, they mislead the public, put them in a different set of fears, and keep them busy and sometimes reduce the population. I mean, we only lost, on our side, so to speak, 58,000 or so people in the conflicts in Korea and Vietnam each, and then the figures which are doctored, which we have from Iraq and Afghanistan. But during the Second World War, there were hundreds of millions of people killed, and they're looking for that. They want to get rid of people, and at the same time get more control, and that's the way they do it.
Mm-hmm. This is a question that acquiesced to other shows. Please, and I've messed up. I've lost that. No, I didn't. It's here, but I got it. It's covered up. Somebody sent me an instant message. Please ask Mr. Chapman what to do if you own a home. We haven't heard any warnings because we've just now started listening. I don't understand.
Well, first of all, it sounds like they want to sell their home. Second of all, I don't know whether they're underwater. Third of all, what state do they live in? And also, do they want to move? Do they want to get out of their home? There's a whole line of things that they can answer for me. I can give them a better answer.
I understand that. And to my friends who sent that email in from Florida, that tells Mr. Chapman what state you're in. But again, the state of Florida is so diversified, depending on where you live in Florida, that the best thing to do is send Mr. Chapman a private email. It doesn't cost you a dime. Just send a private email to bob@intforecaster.com. I know you hear it all the time, but he will get back to you. I know he's swamped, but he will get back to you in a reasonable amount of time. It's not like he's going to ignore you. And am I right, Mr. Chapman?
Yes, and I lived in Florida and California for extended periods of time, so I'm pretty familiar with their laws. I can tell you right now they're non-recourse states. So if you walk away, you don't have to pay anything back. So that's a good start.
Okay. Betty comes in from California and says that is the government truly bankrupt? I keep hearing this day in and day out, and now for the first time I've heard some mainstream press mention it here at KFMB, San Diego radio station, just this morning, telling us, as I was driving my husband to work, that the United States appears to be bankrupt. Are we really bankrupt, Mr. Chapman?
Well, put it this way. We have $14 trillion in short-term debt. We have about $6 trillion in debt from Fannie and Freddie alone. So that takes it up to 20. Let's say 20. And then you have the mandated debt of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and all the bonds we get outstanding. That takes the total to about $1 trillion and $500 million, or 1.5 trillion. There would be 1,500 billion. I'm getting tired. And so, yeah, we can't pay that back. You got to be kidding me. I mean, does every family, every person in every family have 168 grand or whatever it is to pay that debt back? I don't think so. Half the people in America have less than $2,000 in savings. So it's going to be defaulted on. So you don't hold anything that's in U.S. Treasuries, U.S. agencies, which is Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie, and FHA. You don't own stocks in the stock market with the exception of gold and silver shares. You don't own any CDs, whether it's in a bank or a credit union. And you should be in gold and silver related assets, coins and shares. Very simple. And all the people who started, when we started over 5 years ago in this program, have made lots of money. And they've kept ahead of inflation by owning those assets.
Mm-hmm. Question from somebody out there. Do you really think it will get to a hyperinflation USA?
Well, if they don't have hyperinflation, you're going to have a deflationary depression, which is far worse. So that's a Hobson's choice that you have. It stinks, but that's just the way it is. You didn't cause it. Your government caused it. The politicians caused it. The bureaucrats caused it. The powers behind government caused it, but you didn't. You're just some sheeple or schlepper who happens to live in the country.